Man, what a tune, by the way.
Yeah.
The piano in that song is really like minimalistic, but so the lyrical content really does most of the groundwork, doesn't it?
Oh,
I guess that everyone's thinking, oh, why that song for you? Why have you picked this song for us?
Well, I mean, it was a no-brainer really when I listened to it many times and it hit me in that moment as well. And I think it's so important to talk about the environment that you essentially hold yourself in or have yourself in, because it played such an important role on my development or my way of thinking, my psyche, essentially. And I think this is exactly where the problem started, was that like I said, it evolved from smoking with friends and to every night, but then I started, getting really hooked on the music as well. Like everything what I was listening to in the music, like I said, with Wiz Khalifa out there and everything like this.
Yeah.
It was all very heavily orientated around weed or about even drinking or this kind of lifestyle around weed. And that then became essentially a lot of the things I was following online, especially on social media. It became, everything on my timeline and stuff was about weed, but nothing negative about weed, just the positives, like this strain helps with anxiety or depression, or the studies found to help cure, I don't know, cancer or stuff like this. So essentially that's where I began it started.
Yeah. So how did that progress along from that? You're saying obviously with your friends back, when you were younger, that was just something you did because we all do stuff when we're younger. You're trying stuff for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of energy. This sort of masculine energy that you're feeling. So how did it progress for you? What was the sort of the kicker, so to speak, that really took you up a level, or up a notch, I should say?
Well, I think that's a good question, really, because the fact that I had this mindset already engraved or built from the media or the music, I was listening to or following, so that gave me the vision of where I wanted to go in my life. And I just graduated from college, and I was in that progression of either finding a job or going to university. And now I had that, chance to go where I wanted, essentially. I thought, why would I stay in the UK when I could try and, go somewhere else?
Sure.
But the only place I looked at going somewhere else was Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Not even places within the Netherlands, but just Amsterdam. And it took me many years of understanding and realization to even come to this, but I realized that the reason I moved there wasn't just to go to university. Maybe that was like the second or third point, but the main point why I moved to Amsterdam was I could be closer to weed. So I didn't have to go through meeting up with dealers. I didn't have to go through the sketchiness or the hiding things so much. I could just be in my element, I could go to the shop, buy weed. I could smoke in my house or right next to my house. I could smoke wherever I wanted without, having this fear of someone catching me. So there was essentially a need to cut down the paranoia that I would find with smoking in my home country in the UK or in England. Yeah. And now I could get into a place where I was surrounded by it, and I could really then embrace that lifestyle, what I was so heavily following and listening to, essentially.
Wow, so you're basically throwing yourself into the heart of what you thought was everything you wanted, really.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, there's more to it as well. I mean, I took it even that one step further, I think, and I got myself into this, now I can say it, very toxic relationship at the time. Right. But I thought I'd found everything. Going back to the music I was listening to, or that sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing, that's what I had found.
Okay.
It was extreme, though, because all we would do, we wouldn't go to uni, we would just sit around and smoke all day and have sex. And for some people at home, especially the fellas listening to this, they might think, wow, that's what everyone dreams of. And I thought that as well at the same time.
Sure.
But then it all come crashing down because we realized that why we were both heavily dependent on weed and everything was to cover our own personal problems.
Of course.
So we both had issues going on, and it became very tense in our relationship. And I think the weed was the only thing that was holding us together. at that point.
That was your
Everything else was destruction.
That was your sort of
That was-
your connection, your
Yeah.
relatability. Then I suppose is the best word to say.
Exactly. You know. So yeah, I mean, that's probably where I felt like I had found everything, like the cherry on top.
Wow.
But it quickly showed me that this lifestyle is very hard to maintain and can be very.
It's more than just the music. It's more than what films portray. There's a dark side that maybe a lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers might not actually know about.
Exactly.
So with that, let's jump into another tune, shall we? What have you got?
To kick this next song off, you know, I think what's really important about this next song, at least, is that it really focuses and highlights on that person trying to find the motivation for the next day. You know, like stop being in the past, but start thinking about the next days on, the future more, and telling yourself or finding that courage, that motivation to essentially, well, for me, to stop, you know, smoking every single day from morning till dusk.
Wow.
And instead go and do something with my life, you know? So this song is called Today, and it's by Q, and it's gonna probably hit home for a lot of listeners at least.
Let's do it.
Let's give it a listen.